Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this Fireside Chat. It's the fourth in our series of Fireside Chats, and thank you, Gaurav, for joining me as well. We have a very special guest today. He is a Indian-grown Frenchman, in the sense that he is Indian origin, of course, and still very much at heart an Indian, but has made a mark for himself in a global French company. Before we go into the fireside chat as such, just a quick set of housekeeping tips. As has been the case before, all participants other than Gaurav and myself are muted. The reason for that is it ensures that we give you a complete hearing of the conversation without any disturbance. We would like to hear from you and questions that you may want to ask. And depending on which PC or app you're using or phone you're using, there are different places where you can post your questions on. The software does allow you to raise your hand, but I would suggest that you don't use that option because I'm not going to be monitoring that. That raise of hand is something that I need to monitor and then allow you to speak, but I will not have the ability to do that. So please do not bother with raising your hand. If you have a question, please post your question. With that, let's start with the fireside chat. Gaurav, thank you very much for joining us. I know you're back in London. Hope all is safe and well in the UK. And I hope you're enjoying a good lifestyle because we're going to be talking about lifestyle.
It's been pretty good, actually, all things considered. I've been on the move. I've been active. I've been traveling for the last 2.5 months, and I've just come back to London this morning after a 2.5 month stint overseas. So yes, I haven't stopped doing what I like to do, what I need to do. So all good. Yes, thanks.
You moved from the head of development for Accor globally to the CEO of your lifestyle and lifestyle division. Am I right? So tell us, what is a lifestyle hotel, and how is it different from another luxury or upper upscale premium hotel?
Sure. No, it's a good question, and lifestyle can mean, Vijay, a lot of things to different people. But essentially, the way we think about lifestyle hotels, and we've segregated our portfolio of lifestyle hotels into a separate platform that I'll talk a little bit more about. But they are essentially hotels that are rooted in the local community. What do I mean by that? I mean, approximately 50% of our revenue in such hotels comes from food and beverage. And it's not banquets driven business, it's restaurants, it's bars, it's entertainment based, which means that the only way you're going to be successful in generating that sort of revenue is if you make it a place to be in a local community or in a city center. So the locals have to support that hotel extensively. It's not a transient product. This is absolutely part of a city, part of a town, and it's important that you see it that way. In addition, obviously, we use design. We use very specific marketing strategies to position the hotel in a very specific way. But the design element plus the food and beverage entertainment element makes these hotels a little bit different from most other upper upscale or luxury hotels. And that becomes a real key focus. They're not big room factories. Typically, lifestyle hotels tend to be between 150 to 250 rooms. You won't see, there are always exceptions, of course, but you normally don't see 500, 600, 700 room conference-based Fairmont-style hotels in our portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, that the two wouldn't work. I mean, that would be a very sort of apartment-ish lifestyle, if you know what I mean.
Correct.
But tell me, when you say that it has to sort of work with the local community, and I understand the F&B side of it, but in terms of the rooms demand, it's not just the domestic demand that you're targeting. I guess you're targeting much more of, or a good share of the international demand as well, the international traveler. Is the appeal, therefore, getting the international traveler to to understand the local community better, or is it just the branding and the quality that gives the international traveler the comfort?
Sure. I think what we're trying to make it, where we're trying to make these hotels a hub in the local community, which is actually very interesting for the international traveler, both corporate and leisure. But typically, like I said, about 50% of our revenue tends to be food and beverage. And from a rooms perspective, about 60% tends to be leisure oriented, not corporate oriented. So these hotels are generally more leisure oriented, which actually attracts the corporate market, because the corporates want to be in places in the evening where the locals hang out, they can meet, they can integrate, they can have a real experience. If you're coming to the Hoxton in London or the 25 hours in Berlin, you will meet very interesting people which you potentially may not meet in a very more a classic corporate hotel, just because the bars, the restaurants, and the food and beverage lends itself to a very different atmosphere, a very different vibe, and attracts a different crowd.
Yeah, that leads me to the next question. Again, on the subject of the concept of lifestyle hotels and sort of the brand specifications, the brand standards. I know that chains have been very successful in developing lifestyle products, but how does the chain mentality, which is sort of multiple hotels, sort of little more standardization, work vis-a-vis developing lifestyle concepts and brands? And that was a question actually that also came in from one of the participants. How does that sort of work together?
Sure, it's an important question, and this is probably the balance that we are trying to drive, Vijay. The idea of doing lifestyle hotels is not to take a concept and replicate hundreds of them, because then you lose the very authenticity, the very nature of what you're actually trying to build. So our approach is, we have 12 plus brands in the platform that we're launching now across worldwide. Each of these brands has probably somewhere between 10 to 50 hotels on an average, which helps us curate the locations, the product better. So we create scale out of the overall platform, but we don't create scale in a single brand by replicating it over and over multiple hundred times. And that's the balance that we need to maintain. We want to grow fast. Obviously, this is a growth business. It's a big opportunity, but you have to balance that growth with making sure that you're putting these hotels in the right locations, because they cater to very specific needs. So you just want to make sure you don't overdo it. Otherwise, exactly to your point, you lose the very essence of what you're trying to do.
Yes, and you touched upon the fact that there's a growing demand. Tell us what changes in consumer behavior, in guest expectation, is driving and will continue to drive more the demand for lifestyle hotels.
So I think I would probably say the requirement for an experiential product rather than a functional product. And this is not just a developed market phenomenon. I'm working across all markets worldwide. You can see the same trend in Brazil, to Asia, to China, to London, to the US. People are moving more and more towards an experiential product. Why? I think social media, the internet has had a massive impact on people's tastes, preferences, and their desires to be able to consume product. So the person sitting in Jakarta or Delhi is seeing exactly the product that's been offered in New York or in London, and you know what? They want exactly the same product. They don't want a watered down version. They want it obviously adapted to the local market, which we do, but they want the same quality. They want the same designers. They want the same vibe. They want the same feeling that they have in that hotel in Jakarta or in Delhi, which they would get in London or New York. So you have to be real in making sure that you are delivering that product in the same way, at the same quality. Obviously, you're going to adapt it to the local market, but it is fundamental that you keep that consistency, because The world is absolutely global, and I think digital and social media has had a huge impact on the way people see hotels, people see leisure product, and the way people consume today. And that's not going to change. That is only becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'll talk a little bit about later about how we are using social media and digital marketing to drive distribution, direct distribution to brand websites, direct distribution to hotels at a much, much higher rate than you would see in some of the classic hotels. So the whole digital strategy and using online marketing to drive customer loyalty is a huge piece of the puzzle for lifestyle hotels.
That's very interesting. But tell me, does the fact that there is a constant evolution in the guest's expectation, I mean, that's a benefit in the sense that that helps drive fundamental demand for lifestyle hotels.
Yeah.
But is that also a problem because a product which they like today might run out of steam faster because the evolution process is happening too quickly?
Yeah,
How do you guard against that?
You've got to go with the flow. The reality is that consumer tastes are changing. There's no question, and they're changing much more rapidly than they were before. I don't think you can guard against it. You have to embrace it, but you just have to be smart about the product that you evolve and make sure that the investment that you're making in a certain concept has a payback over a much shorter period of time than perhaps you would normally expect 5, 7, 8 years ago. So it's about adapting your investment strategy, making sure what you're putting in, and that's why it's much more with lifestyle hotels is much more about the software than the hardware. This is not about putting marble and chandeliers everywhere. In fact, you will see when we develop our hotels, our cost per square meter on FF&E and OS&E tends actually to be lower than similar benchmark luxury hotels. But because we invest much more on the software side, you're able to generate revenues that are equivalent or better. So it ends up being a better financial equation. So it's not about just plastering, the whole hotel and every square meter with expensive wallpaper and chandeliers and marble, because that is not what lifestyle hotels are about. It is all about creating the authenticity and the ambiance in a product that helps you attract the right market and the right revenue.
Yeah, that needs a very astute sort of business mind and a very astute hotelier's mind to be able to know what is delivered good in a with that difference. But you touched upon the investment side, the fact that the investments could be smaller, but the investments have to pay back quicker. With that, how difficult is it to get developers to work with the lifestyle brands? Is it almost necessary for the lifestyle brand owner to first put up a few hotels, showcase the brand, and then get developers, or can you get investors straight away?
Yeah, it's not easy. I'll say it's still, people are still getting their head around exactly what that means, and it's a different metric. For example, in our food and beverage concepts, we end up paying more than your classic hotels to staff that are typically running these. The managers, the leaders of these outlets get paid more than your traditional classic hotels, but they also generate a lot more revenue than a classic hotels, and that's what it's all about. It's actually making sure that you're investing in the right resources. You are looking at life differently because it's not just about controlling cost, it's about maximizing revenue, because that's the only way you'll generate a better bottom line. So if you've got to invest in the right software, invest in the right people to generate the right top line. And not everyone is ready for that yet. People still benchmark, traditional hotel operating costs, traditional hotel operating margins. And they'll say, well, I'm getting an EBITDA margin of 35%, in X hotel, but you're only showing me a 30% EBITDA margin. And my response is, well, you're not banking percentages, you're actually banking dollars and cents, but look at the actual bottom line I'm giving you versus your investment. That's what you've got to look at. And that is people are starting to understand that rapidly, but it's still an evolving market. But to put life in perspective, you know, lifestyle hotels, there's a lot of talk about lifestyle hotels, but today in the branded global hotel industry, it's only 2% of the supply, but it's actually 10% of the global pipeline. So there's a 5x delta in between the operating hotels versus the pipeline, which shows you where the consumers headed, where the owners headed, and generally the trajectory of the market in terms of preference for this kind of product.
But has it sort of almost forced the need for a lifestyle brand in every major hotel company without sort of necessarily embracing the concept? I mean, it's a must-have,
Yeah.
but is it a must-embrace?
Yeah, look, I mean, different companies have different views. I think everyone is doing it. Then it comes down to how aggressively you want to pursue this segment, how much you believe in this business, what it means to you over the long term. We certainly, from an Accor perspective, I've been, you know, in my previous role, been you know, at the forefront of making some of these investments, developing these products, partnering with the right people. So over the last few years, I've understood the significance of this type of product, this platform, and its growth potential. So I convinced Sebastian to give me a shot at leading this business and see if I can make a go of it. But you know, for Accor 5-6 years ago, lifestyle hotels was almost zero. You know, fast forward today, we'll have you know, at closing of our lifestyle platform, almost 100 operating hotels, 150 plus hotels in the pipeline, and it's almost 30% by value of our entire pipeline, because these hotels tend to generate fees at a significant level. So it's a very meaningful part of what we are doing as Accor. But everyone's doing it. There's no question. I think people realize that this is certainly a high growth segment. It just depends on how serious you are, how scalable you want to make it, and how you organize yourself.
And is conversion a possibility, or is it largely how does it work with conversions?
No, the conversion is absolutely a possibility. You just need the right bones in the hotel. We're working on tons of conversions right now. So no question. It's in fact a very viable and a very important part of our development strategy, because in the end, what you're trying to do is make dead public spaces mostly into revenue generating spaces. When you cut through everything, that is in the essence the benefit of a great lifestyle hotel, that you can take a dead rooftop, you can take a dead lobby and make it into a very, very interesting space with the right level of creativity, design, investment in the right human resources, the right brand concept. You can turn these spaces around and generate significant additional EBITDA with very reasonable investment. So in fact, conversions are a key element, a key piece of the puzzle.
Okay. I would agree with you that, you know, given the fact that it can be a non-standardized product in various ways, it sort of lends itself very well to conversions, in, you know, provided the bones are right.
Absolutely.
So tell me, where in India are we going to see the first set of Accor lifestyle products, and what brands are we going to see? Any more? Which of the others?
I mean, we have obviously a few different brands going from luxury, from Gleneagles to Faina to Delano to SLS, and then in the upper upscale we have Mondrian, we have 25 Hours, we have Mama Shelter, and these are interesting brands. Some come from the US, some come from the UK, some from Europe. So it's a mix of brands and cultures that we've put together in one platform. We're exploring opportunities. I think typically we'll probably start off with one of the big metros, not surprisingly, but we're also very focused on the leisure destinations, because this is a great leisure product. So depending on the opportunity, I would actually move first into one of the key leisure markets, as opposed to just going into a city. because we do very, very well in the leisure market. These hotels, these products adapt well to resorts or hotels and leisure destinations. So that is actually a big focus for me right now, to look at the right leisure markets.
Okay, I think that, you know, it's difficult to say today for you which brand is going to come in here, because you've got to look at different opportunities. But I agree that the leisure segment, or maybe the locations that are a little more sort of leisure focused within the bigger cities could probably give you the best opportunity. Let's change track. Let's move away from lifestyle. I'm going to have one more question on lifestyle. I'll come to that later. But you've been involved with multiple acquisitions. Yeah, I'm not even going to start trying to list all the acquisitions, but I know you've done a lot of acquisitions, small, regional, global, national, whichever. Give us some interesting anecdotes of your experience with acquisitions, even if they're embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I've been lucky enough, thank you, Vijay, to be involved in multiple acquisitions over the course of my previous role over the last few years. And there's been some very interesting, very funny times. But I think if I look back, you know, we grew our portfolio from just over 10 brands to over 40 brands as it is today, and it's been a very interesting journey. I would say, in terms of the anecdotes, if I look back, you know, the final negotiations of the Fairmont Raffles deal, which was concluded at the insistence of Prince Alwaleed in the lobby of the Savoy, that was quite an interesting experience. I wouldn't have expected our final negotiation to be there, but that's where it was done. That's where we got the deal done with him, and it was a very surreal experience to be doing that with a whole bunch of
what do you mean lobby of the hotel?
Lobby of the Savoy, because he actually he's a part owner of that hotel. So we concluded our final negotiations. We didn't do it in a meeting room. We didn't do it on a teleconference. We did it in the lobby of one of the key hotels that was going to come into the network in the Fairmont Raffles deal. That was pretty interesting, and it was a very lively debate, I can assure you, to get that done. You know,
was money changing hands in the lobby?
No, but some very animated exchanges, I can assure you, which made guests stop and take notice.
That is unique. That is unique. Yes. What other? Give us some more.
Getting the SPE deal done, which brought to us the Delano, the Mondrian, and the SLS brands. That was done, you know, over a weekend in Miami, sitting with Sam Nazarian, first at the Delano at the beach club, and then on his boat. It was a very friendly, very casual, great conversation. We got it done over a week. He had been speaking to a couple of our competitors for over a year, but in fact, we crunched the key terms of the deal over one weekend, and then it was about just kind of, you know, showing trust in each other and executing once we shook hands. The Ennismore transaction, which we've worked on now, and we effectively started that discussion. The first discussion was in July, and we ended up announcing the deal in November. So we move fast. I think if I look at to me, if I look at how we've done things because we were able to act fast. We were flexible, adaptable, and could find a way around each issue in a very transparent way. Most of this was done without lawyers. It was done face to face between the principals. There was a minimal amount of conference calls. It was all the relationship that in the end drove us to conclusion on multiple M&A deals. So I'm a very strong believer in that relationship aspect, in the human aspect. If you want to conclude business, if you want to build a relationship, very hard in my view to do that on Zoom and do that on Teams. You've got to be in front, and I've lived that for many years over a period of time, certainly in my line of work. So I'm a strong believer in that.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I agree with you that if you really have to get the deals done, it has to be two people or two, two sets of people having a meeting of minds, doing the give and take without the trappings of legality and even investment banking for that matter.
Absolutely.
Okay, but tell me what are the one or two things that are so sacrosanct for you in a deal that you would walk away because of those?
It's interesting, and I can start by telling you valuation has never been a reason why we've walked away from deal. We've always found a way around the numbers. Obviously, it has to make financial sense. We're a public company. We've got to make sure that anything we invest or buy in is financially accretive. But I think there are two things that are fundamental before you even get to the numbers. One is a lot of what we've done is based on joint ventures and partnerships. It's been actually the foundation of a lot of the M&A work that we've done. So first, do we like the relationship? Do we like the person that we are dealing with? Can we have a long-term relationship with him or her? That is question number one. Two, is the deal a strategic fit? Does it fit our brand portfolio? And can we grow this brand? Because we're not in the business of buying stabilized businesses. We're a growth company, and we invest in brands and product that we can grow 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x over a period of time. So we've got to start with the right questions. Is the relationship good? And can we grow this brand? And is it a strategic fit? If the answer to both those questions is yes, then we head to the numbers. And I can tell you in the last every single deal that I've been involved in, I've never let numbers get in the way, because we've always found a way around that to meet and to make that balance. Because if the relationship is good, if the person you're dealing with is sensible, reasonable, and fair, you will always find a way around the deal structure and the numbers.
Yeah, so you must want to do the deal. Both sides must want to do the deal. Then you're saying you will find a way around it.
Unless both sides see value in doing the deal, it's never going to work. And like I said, the vast majority of the deals we've done have been joint ventures and partnerships, where the people that we did the deal with have come along with us for the ride, spent several years working with us, building, developing the brands, and participating the upside that comes along with it. Right? It's not just, we haven't done, Fairmont Raffles was an outright transaction, but a big chunk of that was actually paid in shares to the vendors. So they actually bought into the value that they would create by contributing Fairmont Raffles to Accor. And hence it was, in fact, in that sense, not a pure cash transaction at all. It was not a pure outright sale. They actually came in and became partners and some of the biggest shareholders of Accor as a result of that transaction. So we've built our entire M&A strategy, our brand strategy on partnerships.
Have you ever had a situation where you wanted to buy something, the existing owner hasn't had a sale on his or her mind, and you've actually gone in there and sort of started the conversation, brought them, you sowed the seeds virtually of a transaction in their minds? How easy is that?
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky, Vijay, in terms of most of what we've done is people coming to talk to us, interested to talk to us because of the track record we've had in building partnerships. But there's been a couple of instances where we were very interested in brands. Actually, the 25 Hours brand, which is now in our lifestyle portfolio coming out of Germany, is an interesting example, because we approached them. Both Sebastian and I were at the 25 Hours Hotel in Berlin, loved what they had done, loved their concept and the quirkiness of the design. Checked around, was looking at the operating performance of the hotel, was super impressed. And we went in and cold called the owners of the brand, 4 partners, went to meet them in Hamburg, sat in front of them, told them that we thought it made a lot of sense for us to partner with them. They listened to us carefully, and that's how we started the conversation. We got the deal done. So that was a pure cold call, and it's one of the best investments we've made in terms of brand investments and partnerships.
So you can walk the extra mile and get it done. Yeah.
You have to. I think if you believe in a product and you believe you can scale that up, you have to. And this brand in particular was a very German-centric brand, mainly in Germany and Austria. We convinced them that the brand had a lot of legs globally. They believed in us. In fact, we are opening our first 25 hours outside of Europe in Dubai this year. It's a fantastic hotel downtown Dubai with 7 different F&B outlets, a great location. We're now in Melbourne, we are in Sydney, looking at Singapore, in various parts of the Middle East. So we I think lived up to our promise, took the brand global, taking the brand global, and that's what they wanted from us.
Okay. And if M&A in India versus M&A outside India, what are the differences?
In the end,
try going to an Indian owner and sitting across the table and doing it on a weekend.
No, I actually don't think there's that much difference. The Indian investors are highly sophisticated. I would say a lot more than a lot of other markets that I work in. They know exactly what they're talking about. So you've got to be clear. You've got to know what you want. I would say it takes longer in India, and in most accounts negotiations take a bit longer. But you just build that into your timeline. You just know that there will be a few more twists and turns along the way. But fundamentally, I don't think there's a lot of difference. Everyone wants to get the right deal done for them, and that's what it's about. You just got to take that into account. The cultural differences. Every country is different. Every market's different. To say India is that vastly different, I don't think that's the case. You just got to adapt yourself. But yeah, like I said, the only remark I would have it takes longer in our country.
You have to have patience, and you have to be able to read the other side. Yes, no, maybe what it means. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about, we've talked about business, and we can come back to business, but let's not forget Gaurav Bhushan, the person.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that people understand hotel executives, hotel leaders as their own people, as the people they are. So what got you into hospitality? And what was your early career like? Well, what is your background?
Actually, I'm not a hotelier by trade. I don't have a hospitality degree. My background my background before I came into hotels was more real estate and finance. And I got into hotels by pure accident because I needed the money. I was in business school in Melbourne, needed to pay my bills, and needed a job. So there was a Novotel hotel not far from my business school. So I applied for a job as a waiter, and I got the job as a part-time waiter, and that's exactly how I got into Accor. There was no great strategy. There was no epiphany. I'd love to tell you it was a stroke of brilliance, but it wasn't. It was just need. And they were kind enough to give me a job that helped me fund my education all the way through when I was in Australia. And then I liked the business. I really liked the business. I've spent a few years working whilst I was studying across pretty much every department in a hotel, from food and beverage to rooms to being a porter to doing minibar to doing housekeeping, anything that made money and paid the bills. So I wasn't choosy. I was just maximizing cash flow. But in hindsight, it was probably the best few years because it gave me such a great understanding of the hotel business. And when I finished my education, I realized I actually wanted to pursue this full time, and I loved the business. I'd never been exposed to it before. So I worked in operations and revenue management for a few years after I finished my business school. But after that, I realized what I really wanted to do, what I really loved was was the development and the investment side. I wanted to combine my previous background of real estate with the hotels, with the hotel business. So I pushed my way into convincing the then CEO of Asia Pacific, that time Michael Eisenberg, to give me a job as an analyst in the development team, and that's how I kind of started and making my way through the different regions and different departments of Accor, and it's been an amazing ride. Accor's been very, very good to me. I've been with the group for over 20 years and loved every minute of it.
You know, your story is so amazing. There's only one word for that, and that is fate. Yeah, you were destined to join them at that point, and to grow to where you are. Congratulations. I think that's an amazing journey. But tell me, having made that journey today, looking forward, what are your goals? What are your aspirations?
Vijay, to be honest, I've never kind of set these long, lofty goals for myself. I take each day as it comes. I've been very lucky, very fortunate to do some of the things I've done. I love what I do. I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. Like I said, I've had amazing opportunities. So to be honest, I haven't set a target of this is where I want to be. I'm living for the moment. This opportunity to do lifestyle hotels came out of nowhere last year, out of the pandemic, and it was right in front of me. I grabbed it, loved it, and I'm loving every minute of setting up this new business. Who knows what is around the corner for us? As you said, it's fate. I'm a big believer in fate. You got to work hard. You got to love what you do, and then let nature take its course. And that's how I look at life.
If nature asked you a question saying, I have a CEO position for you, name which company, where would you go?
Yeah, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm lucky enough to be the CEO of our lifestyle platform. When an opportunity presents itself, I'll look at it at that point in time. But I'm very happy doing what I am at the moment. No intention of going anywhere.
Okay. I'm not going to pursue that conversation. It would be unfair to pursue that conversation. But tell me, what makes you tick? How do you deal with pressure? I mean, the kind of jobs that you've done, the kind of different geographies that you've worked in across the world. There will be successes, there will be failures. There will have, for all the successes that we have talked about, I'm sure there were deals that you would have liked to pursue or thought of pursuing or even tried to pursue, and it didn't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with those pressures? How do you deal with something that hasn't succeeded?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think the one thing you've got to learn in this line of business is you've got to learn to accept and deal with failure. We've had many successes, but I can tell you there's a lot of things that I worked on that haven't transpired, but you've got to learn to accept that. You can't dwell on that. You've got to move on. Things don't happen for a reason. I still regret very much some of the things I've worked on. I couldn't get across the line, but that's life. I'd like to think that we've done more right than wrong. You'll never get everything done that you want, but you gotta give it your best shot. But learning to deal with loss and failure is probably the most important part of this job, I would think, because if you can't deal with that, then I don't think you will be a successful deal maker, because you've got to also learn to walk away when you need to. Some of the best deals you do is the deals you don't do. So that having that balance, having the ability to step back at the time you need to, as much as stepping forward and grabbing what you think is right. Both of them are very, very important. If you don't drive that balance, you can end up in some pretty difficult spots.
And what makes you drive that decision? Is it the heart? Is it the mind? That, okay, I'm going to go forward, I'm going to step back. Is it the heart? Is it the mind?
It's got to be both. And I got to tell you, the more I do, the investment M&A development side, In our line of business, I think it's more heart than mind, because we've all done this long enough to know you can make the numbers say anything you want, but your gut instinct, and knowing that what you're walking into has long-term upside, long-term value creation, and your partner that you're doing this with is the right person that you're dealing with, you can't put that on an Excel spreadsheet. I think it's I believe a lot in instinct, a lot of gut instinct. Obviously, you've got to do your homework, you've got to do your numbers, as we do. We're a public company, we do extensive analysis. But like I said, most times in life you can make the numbers say anything you want. So you've got to really believe in what you're going into. I think it's more an art than a science.
I totally agree. If you do it driven by the computer, by the calculator, a lot of deals don't get done.
Yeah.
Or a lot of deals would not immediately make sense. I mean, I worked with investments, with projects where on the face of it, people would say, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But then the person behind it has had the vision to make it succeed. So yes, it is the mind, it is the heart behind it.
And I'll give you an example. When we bought Fairmont Raffles, it was at a multiple which was north of 20. We were trading at a significantly lower multiple, and EV/EBITDA multiple. The market thought we were crazy. We had no real track record in integrating a luxury hotel company. When we announced the acquisition, people thought we were nuts. The share price fell, and we had a very, very negative reaction generally from the financial markets. You fast forward 5-6 years later, it is absolutely one of the best investments we made. It was a game changer for Accor. It absolutely crystallized a whole wave of new brand investments and acquisitions that we made. We've managed to grow that network and pipeline more than 3 times from where we acquired it. So in terms of financials, it's been an outstanding investment, but it changed the whole way people perceived Accor, and we are now, one of the top luxury players in the world. We're now one of the top lifestyle players in the world. The company has transformed, but that one acquisition has fundamentally changed the course of this company. And if you looked at it at that time in pure financial metrics and just said, oh, the multiple's too high, we're not going to do it, we wouldn't be here today.
Yes, I agree. It can be just the spreadsheets. But tell me, integration. That's a word you referred to a few minutes ago. How difficult is it to integrate all these acquisitions? Different cultures, different geographies. What are the couple of biggest challenges that integration has faced?
It's an excellent question. I mean, and integration is fundamental. And I can tell you candidly, we've had a fair few challenges, and they're different every time you try and integrate a brand. Where we've been very good is in the cultural integration. I think Accor has a culture that lends itself to inviting different cultures in, and we're good at assimilating different cultures within the platform. And we've had investments and acquisitions that range from America to Europe to Asia. And I would tell you confidently, from a cultural aspect, we have been very successful in integrating those companies into the Accor ecosystem. Where it's been challenging has been more on the system side, and been far more challenging than we thought initially, and far more expensive than we thought initially. And now we are a lot better than we were a few years ago. We've understood the challenges. But if you ask me the 2 big areas where integrations and M&A kind of are successful or not successful, is either on the cultural side and then on the system side, because the systems form a fundamental part of the success of integrating a brand and putting it into your ecosystem. We've got more work to do on the system side, but I think we're now rapidly getting there. But certainly I can tell you on the cultural side, it's been great. And financially, we've been very successful at driving these acquisitions.
Yeah, so I think the 2 points you make, one is the people, the culture, the people. That is obviously very, very critical for a people-based business like hospitality. And the second is systems, is technology. Let's twist the technology aspect back to lifestyle. I know you sort of alluded to it earlier, but tell us how you're using technology to further your lifestyle division
So
or even other business.
I think, definitely for us, particularly for lifestyle hotels, we use social media and digital marketing as a fundamental tool of driving customer loyalty, brand awareness, and ultimately business into the hotels. We use less the traditional forms of generating business. And you will see that a lot of the brands that we have in our portfolio drive direct business at twice the rate of comparable brands which are not in the lifestyle space. Why? Because you drive customer loyalty through a truly authentic product. It is not gimmicky. It is not about enticing them through discounts. It is about creating a product that is priced at the right level, has the right hardware and software around it, but then you use the digital platform very effectively to drive business through. So we spend a lot less on traditional sales. Offline sales is not a big strategy for lifestyle hotels, but we invest heavily in branding, social media, influencers, online marketing. That's at the core of what we do. So the digital space is very important for us. But it is, and it's also a lot more cost effective, by the way. We're not doing massive advertisements. We don't do billboards. But using that digital space to drive customer loyalty and drive ultimately direct business to the hotel, it's a fundamental aspect of what we do. And we have a big team focused on that. The other thing, Vijay, we're doing is we've set up our lifestyle platform a bit differently from traditional hospitality companies, because we have a brand-based operating organization as opposed to a typical hospitality organization, which is more regionally based. And there's one team that's taking care of 10, 15, 20, 30 brands, which is typically how hospitality companies operate. We've set up a matrix structure of a brand-based organization with some regional support, because you need that on-ground support. But at the heart of our operating organization, it's actually a brand-based organization. That's more expensive. We generate less profit. I would actually be more profitable if I use a traditional model, but we've decided to go the other way because we think in the long term, that's what will generate value. And you have an end-to-end brand-based organization which delivers that customer experience. In the long run, you'll be better off.
Very interesting. I think it's something that I'd like to understand from you better, but obviously this is not the platform to sort of debate that or to understand, to dialogue that. It would take too long. I know you as a person to some extent. How do you have to, when you're dealing with lifestyle hotels, how tempted are you or how forced are you to live the lifestyle? How easy is it to keep your feet on the ground?
Look, I'd like to think I keep my feet on the ground all the time. Otherwise, our business is a people's business. You've got to be on the ground, establish a relationship with our owners, our partners, our teams. I'm pretty confident my feet are firmly on the ground. I want to keep it that way.
That's from a business point of view. I'm distinguishing. The business point of view, feet on the ground is fine, but getting used to that lifestyle, how easy is it? How difficult is it to get away from it?
It is. It's a fun business to be in. I can tell you. I mean, when going to the best bars and restaurants and trying out new F&B concepts and the latest clubs and lounges is part of your job. It's a pretty fun job to be in. So I'm not complaining at all. So I love that aspect. I love exploring new markets. I love exploring new concepts. I'm out there looking at our competitors, and our competitors are not branded big companies. They are small niche players in each market, in each city, in each suburb. They're the ones we compete with. We don't compete with big chains. So doing that is big. It's a fun part of the job. I love it. It's part of my life. I'm a huge foodie. I love going out there and trying out different restaurants, different cuisines. So yeah, I certainly live that lifestyle because I love what I do. But you've got to balance that with making sure that all of what you're doing, that fun element, ultimately that's got to translate into a viable business model. So that's why I need to keep my feet on the ground to make sure that everything we do and all the fun we have setting up these lifestyle hotels, it's got to translate into a viable bottom line for the owner. Otherwise, we don't have a business.
Sure, sure. Let's talk about the unfortunate pandemic issues that we've had and the recovery of that, the long-term impact of that. What changes in hoteliering do you foresee over the next few years as an outcome of what we have gone through, what we are still going through?
Yeah. Obviously our world has changed tremendously. It's an extraordinarily difficult time right now. And it's really a difficult time in the sense that on one hand, I'm loving every minute of setting up the new business that we're setting up and now building it and growing it. But you're doing it in an extraordinarily difficult environment. So balancing both, you go through a few highs and lows every day, I can tell you. But I think, if I didn't think that this business would come back strong and stronger, we wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be doing this. Accor wouldn't be doing this. We have a firm belief that the business will be back. It'll probably be back in a different way from most of us think today. And
what will that difference be?
Yeah, and I think it'll be different. I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think the way it will come back and the form it will come back will be quite different in different parts of the world, because as you've seen, different countries and different regions have handled this pandemic very, very differently. Chalk and cheese. So the way the recovery will happen will be fundamentally different in Southeast Asia to Australia to the UK to US and continental Europe. And I think you've got to adapt yourself to that reality. There is no one size fits all. We're looking at every market differently. But if I look at the long-term trends, man is a social animal. That desire to meet and socialize, whether it's for business or pleasure, will not go away. I can tell you markets that are open right now, there's not a lot, but the markets that are open, markets like Dubai, markets like Miami, where we have a big representation, the numbers that we are seeing are absolutely astounding. I have never seen numbers coming out of our hotels to that extent. And it makes me think that when the opportunity truly is open for people to travel freely, to meet, whether for business or for leisure, this business will come back much, much, much stronger. But it's reasonably clear that leisure will rebound faster, is already rebounding much faster. Food and beverage, which tends to be a local business, is rebounding very, very quickly the moment you can start to open up. And we've seen that worldwide. The corporate business will take a bit longer, obviously, but it will be back.
Do you think owner-operator relationships will change?
I haven't seen that, Vijay. I haven't seen that. We've been engaging, as you can imagine, with our owners on a very, very close basis, very actively over the last year and a half. I haven't seen that relationship change. There's obviously some unpleasant discussions on both sides where you don't see eye to eye on everything, but we always ultimately find a way through. I think both owners and operators understand that they need each other. the operators need to feel the pain and the hurt of the owners, and I think for most part they are. I would like to think not just Accor, but for most part our peers, the industry generally understands that this is not a time to be antagonistic. This is a time to work together. There's going to be a give on both sides in order to find the right way forward, so the owners can keep their head above water.
But is it going to be a short-term give, Gaurav? Is it going to have some, maybe one or two fundamental shifts?
But to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen, in terms of, if you're talking about the business relationship, the nature of hotel management contracts between owners and operators, I really haven't seen that. You know, we signed over 200 hotels last year at the peak of the pandemic. I can tell you I haven't seen any material change in the terms. What is different is the product and the type of hotels that owners want to build to adapt to the world post-COVID. That is changing rapidly.
In what way?
No question. I mean, look, in terms of product, definitely owners are rethinking the size and scale of some of their hotels, the F&B facilities, the conference facilities. They're adapting those elements, and it's different in every part of the world. And we are working with our owners to adapt the product, but the nature of that relationship, I think that to me really hasn't changed. I haven't seen that.
So you have to have been on a very sound footing basically to ensure that hasn't changed, because in some cases people are expecting a change, and I think more often than not people are talking up a change rather than the real change.
Yeah.
And that's not desirable.
Yeah, I can tell you absolutely. On our side, we haven't seen any fundamental shifts in structural changes in the business relationship, whether it's a management or a franchise contract. But you've got to adapt the product, and you've got to work with where we think over the next 5 to 10 years the customer is going. And as long as you can do that, I think there's no reason you will see a fundamental change, because I don't believe that the relationship between the owner and operator, certainly in the way I look at it in management of franchise contracts, has been that imbalanced. We had arrived over the last few years on what, at least I believe, was quite a sensible balance. So you only look for change when there's a fundamental problem. It's one-sided, and I don't believe it was a one-sided affair over the last few years, so I don't see the need for change.
Yeah, and I think most important, people need to accept or recognize that this doesn't have to be an antagonistic relationship. Actually, nope. If it's an antagonistic relationship, it actually hurts more than having a good mutual relationship.
It's a marriage. I mean, we signed 20, 30-year contracts. You just can't have an antagonistic relationship. It doesn't work. And you've got to be prepared to go and revisit that relationship several times over the course of that relationship, because markets change, and we all know whatever we write at the beginning of a contract, you know, will at some point in time you'll have to come back and see. Look at the time we are in now. You know, if we ran by the letter of the law on a management contract, we'd be having very different discussions with our owners. So you've got to be flexible. You've got to recognize the reality of the situation you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. A question that has come from one of the participants: how do you ensure work-life balance in a global world that you work in?
You know what? I would love to tell you that I have the best work-life balance, but the reality is I don't. I'd be lying if I told you I did. I want to have a better work-life balance. I work all too much. I'm a self-confessed workaholic. I'm very lucky I have a patient wife. So I'm still married 20 years later, very thankful for it. But it is important. I mean, jokes aside, it is important. I am trying to get to a better work-life balance. And I think I'm getting better at it, but have I got there? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Maybe that's why you need the lifestyle hotel stuff,
huh? Absolutely.
Let's end with the last question.
It comes from if you really love what you do, you're going to spend more time at work, and that's not a bad thing, but it's not, you've got to balance it. There's no question. And I'm not the best person to tell you about a work-life balance, I have to confess.
And you know, with the kind of responsibilities that you have, I'm not surprised. But let's end with the last question. What is your advice for younger hotel managers and for staff who are working in the industry, and separately for the students who are going to join the industry?
Yeah.
So let's look at these 2 or 3 categories.
Look, I think I've got to start with, you know, it's a perfect segue into what I was just saying to you. I would tell people, young people, that get into it if you love the business, because if you don't love the business, it can become a painful exercise. And I've seen a lot of people get into hospitality because they thought it was glamorous. It's a lot of hard work. It's like most businesses, it is the glamour is 5%, 10%, and it's a lot of grind for 90% of the time. And you've got to love what you do to go through that 90% grind. And if you're not ready for that, don't do it. Don't do it. There's plenty of other businesses around. You've got to be passionate about this business. I love this business. I think it's a growth business. Travel and tourism is an amazing industry, helping people connect, making people travel, giving them different experiences. I personally find that really fulfilling, but maybe everyone doesn't think that way. And then if you don't like that, if you don't like interacting with people, if you don't like building relationships, this is a difficult business to be in. So you've got to look to yourself and ask yourself, what do you really want to do in life? If that's going to make me happy, then yeah, this is a great business to be in. I'm a very, very strong advocate for the business, provided you've got the stomach to work really hard, do what it takes, and it's a people's business. You've got to like people.
I think that's a great message, and it applies to everybody, whether it's existing people or staff wanting to become managers, managers wanting to become executives, and students who want to enter the industry. So you've got to love it, and you've got to want to be there for the sake of enjoying the industry, and be willing to put in the hard work.
Absolutely, no question.
Yeah. Okay, with that, Gaurav, unfortunately we are out of time, but listen, thank you so much for making the time to chat with me. I think we've had a fantastic conversation on subjects that are important for the future, subjects that people have had on their minds and haven't fully understood sometimes. And we've learned something also about how to do deals in hotel lobbies.
Thanks, Vijay. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated. It's been a great chat, and really thank you for thinking of me and having me on your chat.
Thank you so much, and wish you all the best in your career.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.